Alright, so in this video I just want to go over how to enable and utilize displacement within your Substance Painter projects. So we had talked about using displacement on your meat mat midterm projects. If you're so inclined, you don't have to use it. But if you want to use it, this is how we set it up. So again, to get that meat mat project, you're going to open up Painter and then go to File, Open Sample. Should bring you to couple sample projects, and you'll see one called Meat Mat. Open that up, and then to enable displacement, you need to do a couple things. So first thing we're going to look for are our shader settings. They'll be located in various locations, but for each of you, depending on how your UI is set up, but we're looking for shader settings. Mine is obviously right here. Sometimes it may be as an icon on the side here. It should look like a little circle with a gear icon on it. But anyway, looking for the shader settings. And what we're going to do in here is we're going to scroll down, look for the displacement and tessellation settings. And we're going to check a couple things. First, we're going to make sure that it's enabled so that it works. And then we're going to check the source channel. So the source channel is what material channel is it going to pull information from to enable the displacement. So by default it's on height, but we're going to actually click that drop down and swap it to displacement. By doing this, we basically allow us to have one channel that controls the displacement and one channel that has that normal kind of height detail that we've been used to adding. That way they're separate from each other so that you can, still add bumps to the surface of your model with height maps that don't necessarily displace. So this just lets them keep contained. And then after we change the source channel, we just got to take this scale and just go ahead and up the scale all the way. If we leave it at 0 when we paint our displacement maps, we won't actually see anything happen. So just make sure the scale's up. Great. So after we adjust our shader settings, next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that our project actually has a displacement channel to use. So if you now find your texture set settings, you'll see right up at the top it lists all your channels. So we have base color, metallic roughness, normal height. But we don't have a displacement channel. So as you remember, we set displacement to sample from the displacement channel. So we need to add one to our project so that we have something to work with. So we'll just go to our channels here. We're going to go to the top right to this little plus icon, select that, and then we're going to look for displacement. When we click that, it's going to add a new channel, a new displacement channel. Now, whenever we make a fill layer or anything material related, we'll see we have an additional channel displacement here. So once you've added the channel, gone to the shader settings, change the source channel to displacement, and change the scale, you should be good to go. So to actually use it, there's a couple routes to go. Again, I would kind of use this for like big changes to the mesh. Use it as much as you want depending on your concept, but definitely have fun and experiment with it. That'll be the best way to figure out how to use it. But let's say, let me just get rid of both of these layers and let's just try it out. My instincts are definitely to utilize it in the on a fill layer and then paint my details on the mask. So let's try that here. So if I create a new fill layer and I turn on displacement, turn off the color, and then just give it some displacement, you'll see that my model will start to grow or shrink. So let's just give it some displacement and then let's add a mask, just like we would with anything. Now, when I'm on my mask, wherever I paint, will start to displace. Now, something I want you to notice is right now, my model's displaced, but we can't see it. And that's because, although the model's displacing, we're not affecting the normal map at all. And because we're not affecting the normal map is what tells the light to reflect in certain directions to show us changes in angles. So if a surface is not conforming to the normal map, it's basically kind of going to be invisible. So we want to make it so we can see these. Now, when working with displacement, to make it so we can actually see our displaced detail, we've found that if we just go back to that initial fill layer and also enable height, if we now add some height to our displacement so that this fill layer has height and displacement, now as you can see, we can see those details. They react to the light as we would expect. And this is because height automatically kind of works itself into the normal map of the model. So if we just make sure there is height on our model, or on this fill layer where our displacement is, then we'll be able to see those details. So always make sure you have height and displacement enabled on any of your maps here. So, obviously I can just be painting on my height detail. If we go to our brushes, and then go to like the blur brush here, this can be a good way to kind of it's like kind of sculpting in a way where you can like smooth out some areas. You really have to experiment if you like really just play around with different brushes, see what you can get. If I like use a hard brush here, is it not? Oh, still on the. If it ever just isn't, just make sure you're not on this smudge tool and go back to the brush. Yeah, so now if you're working with hard shapes, notice how the edges here get really craggly and sharp and jagged. A good way to smooth those out is if you just go to wherever you're painting. So I'm painting on the mask here, and then you add a filter, and then for the filter select a blur, and then just give it a really light blur. You can see it'll start to smooth out those shapes. So as you're working, you can use displacement to make big changes to your model. You could add ears or horns, add clothes by displacing out kind of where a shirt or pants would be. You can really go crazy with it. You can also, if we do another one here, fresh fill layer, turn on height, turn on displacement, and then let's add a black mask. And then to this, let's add a fill layer, and then let's find a cool noise to work to use. Oh, I'm thinking of cells. Let's do cells. This one's just gonna look cool. Oh, it's underneath. Interesting. Sorry, now I'm like experimenting also. Let me turn my last layer off. Let me grab this. Go to my fill layer. Let me make sure my height is height, and then my displacement is displacing. So you can do the by making a fill layer for your mask and then adding a noise to it. You can add some really interesting shapes all around. So now I can come back in here to my noise. I can play with the adjustments on it. I can invert it. Start to really get something interesting. Now, if I turn this back on, okay, it does add on top of it. If I change this to, let's see, is it replace. If I go to displacement, change this to replace, then go to height, change this to replace. Okay, so what I did there was, as you saw before, my two different layers were kind of like overlaid on top of each other. So like my painted detail here had the texture underneath. One way to make it so whatever layers on top shows, on top, is to set the blend mode from normal to replace. And that way, instead of blending them together, it's just going to replace whatever values are there with your new values. When you do that, be mindful on the layers. In the top left is this height, or you can basically have layers or settings per channel. So you would have to go to the height channel, swap it to replace, and then also go to the displacement channel and change that to replace as well. You may not need to do that, but it's an option. I could come back to my fill here. I could add a new paint layer, and then that could allow me to start, maybe painting it out in some areas. Maybe I don't want this effect everywhere. Maybe I go again to that blur brush, can blur the edges a bit. There's really lots of things to be done, which is cool. It's interesting. But anyway, the main takeaways are you have to make sure to use displacement, you have to make sure it's enabled in the shader settings, and then you have to make sure you add that displacement channel in the texture set settings. And then every time you add a displacement layer, make sure you are also adding a height to it. And I just put the height up to maximum, because without that it will not display properly, and we want it to display properly. So go forth texture matte here. Use some displacement to mix it up, make something interesting, and have fun with it.